Here we are, Location Luxe. I'm your host, Alan Canas, and here in Season 1, we'll be focused on what we're calling the Great Lifestyle Migration. On each episode, I'll be right here in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. Over the last few decades, we've witnessed a great migration for employment and technology development. As such, the need and demand for homes has been among the highest in the country. These migration choices are giving people an extraordinary opportunity to explore new locations, amenities, and lifestyle options. And that's why we're here. Location Luxe. This week, I am so excited to welcome Paul Benson, who is not only a founder of Realm, but also a top real estate agent in Park City, Utah. Paul, I know you have been so busy. We've been trying to get you onto the show. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for the invitation. My pleasure.
And you know what, Paul? I know that Park City, Utah is so much more than a destination location. It's a beautiful lifestyle. You must tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your business.
Oh, absolutely. Back in 2004, I was living in Newport Beach and had taken a vacation to Park City. And I'm from the Northeast. I grew up in Killington, Vermont. So skiing, biking, the mountains, definitely my background. I love mountain biking. I love road biking. I love just getting up in the mountains and you know, the air and the views. And it's a great way to exercise. And it is definitely a place where you can live and have that lifestyle of the outdoors. But you know, for most of my career here, I actually had a ski in, ski out office. So, you know, I could do 6 or 7 runs before 10 a.m. and get back to work. You know, business-wise, I've been in the top 3 or number 1 many years over the last 15 years for the state of Utah. And, you know, my business has really grown into what I would say my specialty is big ski homes, ranches that are more for the gentleman rancher moving here to really have that experience for the first time, or just epic collector properties, you know, the super luxury lifestyle type properties. That's what I specialize in, and that's where I've really created my career.
Well, whenever I think of Park City, Utah, I always think of Paul Benson and number 1. So. And Paul, let's talk about the seasonal activities. I know there are so many with Park City. Tell us a little bit about those.
Sure. You know, I think originally when I moved here, I felt like the majority of everyone I met moved here or actually was introduced to Park City because of skiing. You know, but over the years, that's kind of migrated into whether you're snowmobiling or ice fishing or skate skiing or cross-country skiing. You know, now it's kind of riding your fat tire mountain bikes during the winter. You know, the winter sports are still there, but really what actually caused us to move here is usually the summers. We have epic golf. You know, we have absolutely some of the country's top golf courses here by Pete Dye, Jack Nicklaus, and all the amazing Mark O'Meara, amazing designers. So very quietly, the professional golfers know us very well. Our fly fishing is absolutely world class. We're a destination sport for mountain biking. We actually have a lot of tourists now that come here just to mountain bike. Our cycling, you know, we have so many miles of trails without actually being on a main road specifically for cyclists. But when you do get on a road, you know, these are mountain roads. So the traffic is not that much and the shoulders are pretty wide. So whatever it is you're really craving outdoor-wise, we have it.
It's amazing how much Park City has to offer. And Paul, tell us a little bit about the culture. What is the downtown like? The restaurants, the resorts? What can people expect?
You know, I would say Park City really tried to kind of retain that silver mining theme. We were kind of... that's where Park City put itself on the map back in the day was our silver mines. And so there's a lot of that heritage and respect paid to really the history of what founded Park City. But now what I would say is the core is certainly Main Street. Main Street goes a little over a mile, and it's all shops, art galleries, restaurants, outdoor dining this time of year. It really is kind of that centerpiece where whether you want to bike in for a meal or ski in for a meal, and then ski back out, Main Street can make that happen.
Can you tell us a little bit about the schools? What's going on with the schools in Park City?
No, absolutely. Our schools are regularly top 100 in the country. So we are, our school system is a reason people move to Park City. They really want to have their children in a school system that it really promotes not only the great sports. We're known for some of our, whether it's the Park City football team or hockey team, but also our film studios. Sundance Film Festival being here with the Robert Redford influence. Our school systems have a lot of filmmaking influence as well, which is interesting. But we're small enough that you really can have that kind of intimate environment, but we're still big enough that we have the funding to really have amazing schools. Now this year, it did get more complicated. With the migration coming in, we had 3 times the amount of students enroll on day one than we ever have in the past. And
Wow.
being in a small town with labor shortages everywhere, with the economic boom suddenly, it's very hard to hire the teachers. So it's a good challenge, but that's one of our challenges right now, is keeping up with the growth.
And Paul, you have some of the most amazing properties in Park City. Would you mind telling us about the architectural design styles and options that people have when moving to Park City, Utah?
Absolutely. I think like most towns, we're all over the board, but I'd say the goal is that overused word, mountain modern. But what does that mean, mountain modern? In Park City, what it means is something that has kind of the colors of the area around. Definitely has a lot of glass to take in the views and the wildlife. We definitely move here wanting to see wildlife in most cases, and so to have those views and have those wildlife and have that kind of indoor-outdoor experience, the more indoor-outdoor living that you have, but still the simplicity without kind of bringing in the flash that maybe you'd see in other markets. We definitely toned down the flash.
Paul, would you mind sharing with us what can one expect in regards to weather? What is the weather like seasonally?
Another reason you move here. I think there's this myth that we must be really cold, and I always get this, what are your summers like? And we actually have 331 days a year of sunshine. Our winters are mild. Yes, we get a lot of snow, but it's not uncommon to be able to ski in a light jacket or even a sweater, unlike the Northeast skiing. So it's very mild winters.
How are people commuting in and out of Park City with the new airport?
We've always been a commuter city quietly. I remember first moving here, realizing just how many Hollywood workers, whether it was stuntmen or film crew or actors, would commute back and forth, and this was their full-time home. But that's really evolved with the tech boom. We call it Silicon Slopes, and it's become more than a slogan. It is a real everyday thing we're dealing with, where groups of people are moving here at once. For a company relocating in the tech world. So, our airports now, we do have commuters from Singapore on a weekly basis, from New York on a weekly basis. So we're certainly seeing more international travel than we've ever seen.
And Paul, why would you say most people are migrating to Park City?
Quality of life. I think obviously the pandemic got into people's heads. I kind of phase it now that I've looked back, because we've done so much business. We're already booming, but we really went up exponentially. And, the phases were obviously people early on in the pandemic were looking for more space, and we have the trails and obviously bigger homes, and they're more spaced out. And so we attracted buyers certainly in that moment. But somewhere in the middle of that pandemic, the work from home became a reality that it wasn't temporary. Having the ability to create more memories, Park City is really that kind of a destination.
You know, that's very well said. I agree with you 100%. Paul, could you share with us a little bit about what's going on with the property taxes?
Yes, our property taxes, I would say, are also a reason people move here. You know, in general, Utah has very low income tax, around the 4% range. And then when you look at purchasing a property, it's really broken down two ways. It's either 1% of the general value, which is kind of averaged in the community, so it's not even what you pay. But if you live here and call it a full-time residence, or you move here, call it a full-time residence, you only pay half of that. So for example, on a $5 million home, it's pretty common to be paying around $20,000, $25,000 a year for taxes, which is pretty unheard of in today's world.
Right. Would you please tell us the various price points that there actually are in Park City?
Absolutely. You know, I think we're probably more balanced than the other resorts that I've spent time in. I've certainly spent my fair share of time in Vail, Aspen, Jackson, Telluride, Sun Valley, own offices in majority of those cities. And I'd say Park City to me is still maybe the most balanced, where you have entry-level condos in that $300,000 to $500,000 price point, kind of on the outskirts of town. You have entry-level ski homes in that $5 million price point. But you can still go find a single-family home on a beautiful flat street, well under $2 million, in a great school district, kind of walking distance to the trails, and you know, really all over the board. Our low on the market today for a single family home in Park City is about 1.2, and our high today is 38 million.
Paul, I ask every person that comes on the show this question: what is your favorite buyer story?
You know, I would say I certainly have a few. I would say my favorite buyer story is a buyer that purchased a home. I met this buyer at a golf course that I was doing an event in Lake Tahoe. He saw a video that we had for a $35 million home, and said he had to have it, and bought it sight unseen, had never seen the home, closed on it 5 days later. He flew in at the last minute. He said, before I see the home, I need to get some ski supplies. So his two jets landed around 1 in the morning, had to open the local ski shop for him, and they were very accommodating for he and his family. So around 2:30 in the morning, we got him all loaded up with new gear, and then kind of took the entourage to see his home for the first time. So he walked in it for about 15 minutes and said, "This is great, perfect, just what I wanted. Thanks, Paul." So I would say that was a pretty unique story. A lot of fun.
That's a good one. That's a terrific story. Paul, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Location Luxe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to DesignTV. My name is Sarah Shelton, and I am the market editor at Luxe Interiors and Design. As always, thank you for tuning in to the exciting programming we are rolling out here at the SANDOW Design Group. Today, we are diving into all things kitchen appliances with Signature Kitchen Suite. Jack Palazzolo, head of marketing, is with us today, and he is going to walk us through their brand new interactive virtual showroom that they have meticulously designed and crafted for users to have a hyper real experience with their incredible product. I have had the opportunity to play around in the showroom, and it is awesome. So we're going to dive into all of that in a minute, but first, welcome, Jack. It is a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here and to speak to your audience today.
I'm sure so many people are going to log in to hear what that you have to say and have to show us. But Jack, I know you have such an interesting and impressive background. You hold a degree in mechanical engineering and math, which I could hardly wrap my head around. And you have an MBA. You've worked in the automotive industry, and you have lived and worked abroad. And now here you are at SKS doing some pretty cool things. Can you tell us a bit about SKS and also what it is that you do there?
Sure. And first of all, hopefully at this point, everybody's heard of Signature Kitchen Suite, but we are, as I acknowledged, the new kid on the block. So we are the luxury home appliance brand of LG home appliances. And if you've been keeping track of third-party updates on reliability, I'm proud to say that LG is America's most reliable home appliance brand. So out of LG's desire to get into the luxury space, they recruited a team of people with expertise in luxury appliances, from engineering, from marketing, from sales. And about 5 years ago, this brand was born. And it's a brand that's designed for a new customer. Because if you look at customer attitudes towards luxury and who's now purchasing, coming into the market and doing has most of the purchasing power, it's a new customer. It's the Gen X, it's millennial. They didn't grow up with brands that are venerable brands that are 50 to 150 years old, and they're looking for something new. So out of that, Signature Kitchen Suite was born, and really designed and built from the ground up, so that every product we bring to the market is designed for a customer. We call it Technocurian. They love to cook. They are the kind of person that you go to for questions when you have questions about technology. They love new experiences. They're willing to explore, and you put that together, and it's a customer who needed a new brand.
Amazing. Yes, young but mighty. And Luxe knows luxury, and you guys are so dialed into that. And I also just want to let everyone know now early on that at the end, Jack will share with you, our viewers, how you can get in on the opportunity to visit Signature Kitchen Suite's in-person showroom in Napa Valley, California. So that's one of the many things not to miss during our chat. So be sure to stay tuned until the end. Of course, today is all about the virtual showroom. The three designers who have the showroom or the virtual spaces are Trisha Gaffney, Martha Vega, and Lynn Knight Jesse. Jack, I think we're ready to jump into Trisha's kitchen. So take it away, and we're gonna follow along so we can show everyone what we've been talking about for the past few minutes. All right, it looks like we're in a virtual kitchen. What are we looking at, Jack?
We are. We've come into signaturekitchensuite.com, and the first opportunity to engage you will see is entrance to our virtual showroom. Come in and explore. That's what it's all about. So we're going to start the experience. Okay, Sarah, so as we enter the virtual kitchens, you see we have three to choose from. As we mentioned before, Contemporary Coast, Urban Chic, and Country Modern. I'm going to start with Urban Chic, living on the banks of the Hudson River. That's what I'm most familiar with. So we start with an opportunity to choose our view. 4 of those to choose from. I'm going to start with this view. As you can see, it has our double wall ovens, microwave drawer, and in the back, I want to explore our 48-inch dual fuel range.
Yes, and
as you can see, doors open,
yeah,
lids move. It gives you a look at not just at the outside. Most of what you'll see in virtual kitchens is it will show you on the outside, but here we can actually open doors. You see an opportunity to touch knobs, and I start with this because this is really our flagship. This is an award-winning product. It's won Best of KBIS. It's won the Spark Award from the National Association of Home Builders, and it really exemplifies what SKS brings to market with a true steam combi oven, the first ever sous vide water bath on a cooktop, induction and gas, all on the same appliance. And
what an incredible product. Yeah. And also to see it in a real space, to see it in proportion with, you know, hardware and things on the range. I mean, it doesn't get more real than this.
Exactly. And then if you want to explore the different features, or if, in the case of a designer doing exactly what I'm doing now, working with a client and exploring the products in real time. Smart knobs are one of my favorite innovations. Knobs can be a bit iconic in our industry. Different brands known for different color schemes or things with their knobs. In our case, we call them smart knobs, because for any function that they control, they all come with their own individual timer. And if you are a technecurian chef and you have 5 dishes going at the same time, you've got, using your watch for a timer, your cell phone for another timer, the appliance itself for a third timer. In our case, every application has its own timer. And now, if your interest, there's been a 2-zone induction, again, also available on the cooktop. If your interest is more integrated style and you want to see a range top as opposed to a range, you can make that switch in real time.
And also, just how you and I are doing this is, how a client and designer, be doing this as well when they're designing their dream kitchen. They could be walking along, they could be in separate parts of the country and, be able to access this showroom and see the product at hand.
Exactly. And oftentimes in a showroom, or you go to a dealer, there's limited opportunity of what's on display. So the ability to actually change and look at different variations, we think is a great innovation, a great tool for designers to work with clients, and clients to envision how they can place appliances or try different alternatives.
Are we ready to jump over to my favorite topic of wine and look at a wine column?
Let us do that.
Okay, so we just jumped kitchens, and whose kitchen space are we in now?
We are going into Martha Vega's kitchen, called Contemporary Coast. Martha comes to us from the West Coast, so has a real keen eye for the design styles out there. Has been very instrumental in the design and aesthetic of our Experience and Design Center in Napa.
And the sizes on these, Jack, it's 18 to 24 inches?
We have an 18 and a 24.
Right.
Both come in stainless, as all of our appliances, stainless and panel ready. We take a look inside and explore the technology. I mean, what is most notable and what we're most proud of in our wine columns is what we call wine cave technology. So we've taken the technology, for lack of a better word, that comes along with the actual ancient wine caves that you find in France. And they are perfectly designed, and nature designed them to protect wine from its 4 key enemies: temperature, vibration, light, and humidity. So within our wine columns, you'll see we have 3 temperature zones. What allows us to control vibrations is a proprietary technology that LG and Signature Kitchen Suite have, called the inverter linear compressor. And what that does is, as it raises temperatures to keep them steady, that change in temperature, typically the technology that does that has a bit of a jerk or a shudder that comes along with it, and that creates vibration within the wine cabinet. Linear compressor is perfectly smooth, so you don't get that vibration. I will point out too that in terms of tools and being able to get deeper into the information on any feature or any technology we speak of, we are able to just with one click download the specifications. So that click will take you to a PDF that you can print and have to hand all the technical information that a client would want.
So again, just this resource of information, of visuals, you can keep track of all of the specs all in one place. This all comes from hanging out in these virtual showrooms. There
exactly. It's one-stop shopping. So this is all the information you would find online or in our design guide, but we made it easily accessible as you're exploring, especially if we're working with the client, as designers working with the client. Questions come up, so you want more detail. So here it is at a fingertip.
Yes.
So this is an app when you have one of our wine columns, and it applies to the under-counter wine that's coming out as well. Really, you can keep track of the wines that you have, easy access to information on those wines. There's a social element to it as well. Friends, family, all the people that you might entertain as you build a knowledge base of their wine preferences. You can make sure you have the right wine for any guest. Recommendations on wine pairings with meals. So it's more than just the storage, it's the experience of enjoying all that in wine that you've invested in and you entertain with.
I'm super excited to talk about this under counter refrigerator and freezer drawer. I'm intrigued because one, they're drawers, which is always very convenient. And B, if I understand correctly, you can adjust the function of these drawers. Is that right, Jack?
That's right. And I've been very excited to show this as well. It'll be coming into our dealerships and warehouses in August. As I mentioned before, being respectfully disruptive in the industry is when we bring products to the market, we can't just be a Me Too product. So everything we do is meant to be either the best in its class or the only in its class. And that applies to the under-counter convertible refrigerator freezer. As you mentioned, different temperature zones, actually 6 temperature zones, because the different types of foods actually require different temperatures, from freezing all the way through up to the right temperature for meats, for seafoods, for cheeses, for keeping beverages cool. Another phrase I like to use with our product, this one especially, is and, not or. So there are under-counter appliances on the marketplace, refrigerator and freezer. With any other brand, you could get refrigeration and freezer by buying 2 different units, one refrigerator, one freezer. Or there are offerings where one drawer is a freezer and one drawer is a refrigerator. What you get with Signature Kitchen Suite is 2 drawers that can be either a refrigerator or a freezer. You could have all freezer, all refrigerator, or a combination of both, depending on what you're doing during the course of the day, during the course of the week. If you need store a lot of ice for a weekend party, it can be all freezer. If you have a meal plan with different ingredients, you can set the right temperature in each drawer for those ingredients. It comes in stainless steel, also comes panel ready. So really it's in one appliance, you can get what might take 2 appliances to do, or double the capacity of freezer, refrigerator compared to others. And the same space and size also applies to under-counter wine unit that's coming out at the same time with the same wine cave technology that we have in our wine columns. And again, listening to the design community, as we went into COVID, drove more work from home. People are seeing more rooms in the home as requiring refrigeration or wine storage. So this is, we think, perfectly timed for what's happening in luxury homes in the United States as we speak.
The sky's the limit for this product and all that it can do in these luxury homes. And I also just want to point out for the under counter wine column, I think it holds something like 41 bottles, which is so much, so many bottles in a small footprint. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And again,
yeah,
it can
so it's not really making
the vibration, the light, the variations in temp, the humidity. Again, all that the big column can do, the under counter size can do as well.
Exactly. All the same technology, all the protection in a smaller space.
This is how designers and potential customers alike can experience the product until you're able to go into a showroom if that's what you want. So Jack, I think that's a wrap. I think that we hit on all that we wanted to touch on throughout these spaces. I know with such technical areas like the kitchen and kitchen appliances, there's bound to be lots of questions. So if you have one, feel free to submit that question directly in the comment section and someone will try and answer those as they come in. And additionally, because Jack is so helpful and knowledgeable and SKS is so innovative, he is sharing his email with all of you to have access to. So I suggest taking advantage of this if you have a fun techie question for Jack. His email is jack@signaturekitchensuite.com. I don't think I've ever given out someone's email on this before, so this is kind of cool. So thank you, Jack, for offering up your expertise to our viewers. But Jack, I just want to give a huge thanks to you and your team and Signature Kitchen Suite for taking us along on this virtual experience today. I hope all of our viewers will take it out for a spin themselves and to really play with the product and learn about some of these really innovative features that are truly groundbreaking. But Jack, what's next for you guys? What can we anticipate to see from you all in the next 6 months to a year?
First, we'll continue to expand the functionality on our website. So the next thing in store for, we have the virtual kitchens, and we're working on ways to make it easier for designers to configure and spec and price out the kitchens that their clients are looking for. Looking forward to seeing people face to face again. Also, our Experience and Design Center, we will resume the immersions, the events and experiences that we have there in September. So along with any feedback, and I'm happy to give out the email address because it's about the dialogue and the feedback we get from customers. Learn something every day. So please feel free to send any questions. And also be aware that we are reopening the Experience and Design Center. So we have a lot of demand, a lot of pent up demand for those immersions. But if somebody's interested in joining us there, I'd be happy to put you on the list for email and see when we can fit you into this experience. And then before you know it, it'll be 2022 and so much more to talk about with products that we have coming next year that I'm not at liberty to speak about right now. But again, we'll look forward to meeting you all. And thank you so much for the time and the opportunity today, Sarah.
Amazing. Yes. Thank you, Jack. And we have a lot to look forward to from you guys at Signature Kitchen Suite. So thank you so much for your time and we'll do it again soon.
Bill Walsh is the founder and strategic advisor of Healthy Building Network, which has been defining the leading edge of healthy building practice for 16 years, working in strategic collaborations with industry partners such as Google, Harvard University, Perkins & Will, Gensler, Smith Group, to name a few, and green building organizations, including USGBC, International Living Futures Institute, and enterprise community partners. Healthy Building Network is dramatically increasing transparency in the building products industry and reducing human exposures to toxic chemicals, as well as increasing commercial demand for healthier products and creating market incentives for healthier innovations in manufacturing. In 2015, HBN launched Home Free, a new collaboration with affordable housing developers to bring the benefits of healthy building to people who are disproportionately exposed to toxic chemicals at home, on the job, and in their communities. Bill has become a sought-after expert in healthy building, chemical policy, and environmental health, traveling frequently to enlist and assist the allies in this growing movement. It's my pleasure to welcome Bill Walsh.
Thank you for that nice introduction, and I'm really honored to be here to talk about how we make our buildings healthier and look at some of the challenges and the opportunities that are before us. And I think in order to understand both the challenges and opportunities, it's important to understand and get a perspective on the scale of chemical use in our building materials. Until 2004, for example, the #1 use of arsenic was in pressure treated wood in our buildings. Today, and I want people to kind of keep this in mind as I speak, the building industry is the #2 use of plastics behind packaging. And more than 50% of formaldehyde in the world is actually used in building products. So you get a sense of this scale of the problem that these present, but also of the impact that we can have when we make progress. I'm going to pick up today where Ed Mazria and the excellent panel yesterday left off, talking about the connection between embodied carbon and material health. We usually focus on occupant health, and we're making great progress actually in reducing exposure to VOCs in our built environment, protecting our occupants from those chemicals. We're not there yet. We have a ways to go. We have other chemicals besides VOCs to address, but I think we kind of understand how that works to a great extent. But I wanted to kind of step back and look at where does material health intersect with the dominant issue we're concerned about today around climate change and bending that curve on CO2 emissions within the time frame we have to meet our climate protection goals. As Ed pointed out yesterday, and I took the screenshot from the presentation, I hope you won't mind, there are 3 material sectors in the building industry that account for over 20% of the building industry's material CO2 emissions, and that's concrete, steel, and aluminum. I want to use the same data when you dive deeper into the study, because you wonder where does that leave us with interior finishes, for example. What difference does it make in terms of climate and human health in the material finishes we choose for our buildings? So this is a continuation of the same analysis that Ed calls upon, the future of petrochemicals, by the International Energy Agency. And you see the red dots in this chart are basically representing the data that Ed presented. Cement, iron, and steel, those are the two highest sources of direct CO2 emissions by industrial sector, followed by the third red dot, which is chemicals. And the study makes clear that when they talk about petrochemicals in this analysis, this is driven by plastic demand, because plastic is, of course, made from hydrocarbons. The blue bars are a very interesting analysis as well. This is what they call final energy demand, and that is the draw on fossil fuels, not just the CO2 emissions, but the total draw and use of fossil fuels that will eventually become CO2 emissions over the life cycle of the product. And here you see chemicals and plastics is the #1 source of final energy demand for fossil fuels. And that's understandable because the plastics and the chemicals themselves are basically oil and gas and coal in another form. So we see, if we think about it, not so much as comparing our flooring or wall covering or ceilings to concrete, steel, and glass, but thinking about the actual material, the polymers and the petrochemicals in our interior finishes, this is a significant sector for us to contribute to reduced carbon, and it coincides with healthier products. Because according to industry estimates, and this might sound incredible to you, but really nobody disputes this, the largest driver of oil and gas demand by 2050 is not going to be energy any longer as we transition to greener energy sources. It's going to be plastics driving all petrochemical production. And in fact, virgin plastic production is projected to grow between now and 2050 at an exponential rate, such that we will produce more plastics between now and then than we've produced in the history of the world today. And you let that sink in with all of the problems associated with our plastic consumption, where we are completely on track, not only through projections, but industry investments, nearly $200 billion invested in the plastics infrastructure to make more plastics between now and 2050. And where this really intersects is around equity and environmental justice, because we would never specify, and we've been doing a great job of avoiding specifying, materials that off-gas toxic pollutants to the occupants in our built environment. However, the cheap plastic materials that we rely upon today, things like vinyl, luxury vinyl tiles, for example, they may not be off-gassing toxic chemicals to the environment to the extent that they used to, but they are releasing very toxic chemicals into the local environment of the facilities at which they're manufactured and to where they go after the useful life of the product. So the intersection of carbon and toxic chemicals really is around social equity and environmental justice. And addressing that is a top priority of our movement. And that's why carbon neutral is not enough. It's really the kind of the marketing angle of the day. And many people are lured into thinking that buying a carbon neutral product is the best they can do for the environment. But it's simply not true. As this ad shows you from Shell Chemicals, they'll sell you carbon neutral oil. And that's because when you read the fine print, carbon neutrality is often achieved through what's called offsets, which is purchasing clean energy credits, planting trees in South America, et cetera. What we need to do in order to achieve true healthy buildings and true equity is to focus on the industrial process changes that reduce our use of petrochemicals and reduce our production of virgin plastic. And that's where we see the convergence. By reducing our use of virgin materials, our use of chemicals and plastic, the carbon and toxics goals that we share converge in promoting environmental justice and equity for everyone. So before I turn to some of the most important things I think we can all do right now to achieve these goals, I just want to show you what some of the impacts we've had together, working together over the past 10 years that are pretty significant, in addition to providing healthier built environments for our building occupants. I mentioned the use of formaldehyde in building products. 50% of the world's formaldehyde used in building products. Formaldehyde is a known human carcinogen. And we're seeing dramatic reductions in the built environment of formaldehyde off-gassing because we've reduced the inputs of formaldehyde into many building products. And as a result of reducing those chemical inputs, we see tremendous reductions of formaldehyde released into the local community. This chart shows dramatic reductions in the release from particle board manufacturing facilities, beginning in approximately 2004, 2005. This chart shows dramatic reductions in the formaldehyde releases from residential fiberglass insulation factories in North America. And I don't have to explain this curve to you. What's significant is that today, the industry in North America has transitioned such that no fiberglass bat insulation is made using formaldehyde anymore. So we've seen a complete transformation in that industry away from a highly toxic chemical. And arsenic compounds, this has international implication because when arsenic compounds were phased out of use from most dimensions of pressure treated wood in 2004, we measured the impact by inputs because we were not mining arsenic in the United States. It was coming from China and Chile. So we see international environmental justice objectives achieved through reducing the use of these chemicals in our US building products. So we can have some great impacts when we work together. And I want to now focus on three key areas, I think, that we can collaborate on today in order to continue this trend. First, requiring health product declarations. The HPD is a standard format for reporting the contents of building materials and the associated health hazards. Now, I know HPDs are not that useful to the average architect, designer, or specifier. They're very complex documents, and that's okay. Not expecting you to use them in your daily work, but they serve two functions. Just requiring an HPD has two huge impacts. First, before a manufacturer fills out an HPD, they look at their manufacturing process and they want to put their best foot forward. And we have seen time and time again that before disclosing the product contents, manufacturers make process improvements, reduce their use of toxic chemicals and therefore their emissions that will happen in the built environment and surrounding communities. So simply requiring an HPD is one of the greatest incentives you can provide for a manufacturer to review their process and improve it. Secondly, even though the data are complex and technical and not that useful perhaps to most architects and designers on a daily basis, they're very useful to groups like our organization in helping analyze the field, set strategic objectives, and identify where we have opportunities, such as in the use of formaldehyde in particle board and insulation, to truly transform a whole industry and target all the great work that you do as designers and specifiers into this kind of collective action. So we've seen great progress in the past 10 years. There's over 8,400 HPDs now published, publicly available. It represents 20,000 building product SKUs, over 650 manufacturers participating, and a growth curve of 200 new HPDs published every month. This is a great accomplishment for the industry. One of the top things I think that you can do to keep the trend moving forward because it triggers a whole cascade of improvements in our building products. Second thing, I say call Tim Conway. Some of you might know Tim. He's a VP of Sustainability in the global clients for Shaw Industries. And I bring Tim up as a stalking horse for extended producer responsibility or take-back programs. Tim once told me that on the back of every Shaw carpet tile they sell is an 800 number that you can call to send it back to Shaw. And he had that number forwarded to his own mobile phone and found that it never rings. And that's a real shortcoming of our industry, because take-back programs, having the manufacturer actually reprocess their products is the single most effective type of recycling strategy that we can employ. And virtually all of the major flooring companies offer some sort of program. I put up the websites for Tarkett, Interface, and Shaw here. So in your practice, to the maximum extent you can, take advantage of these take-back programs. It's the best way to reduce virgin materials use and spur recycling at an industry-wide level. And finally, using third-party product evaluations. There are a number of good ones out there. Cradle-to-cradle certification is a valuable and reliable system. The Red List from International Living Future Institute is a great tool to use. The credits in LEED and WELL and Enterprise Green Communities standards point you in the direction of various product evaluations. I'm going to talk for a minute about what we do at the Healthy Building Network. If you go to the website listed below, you can find this data freely available. We create what we call hazard spectrums that are a red to green ranking of materials in a specific product category. In this case here on the left of the screen, it's insulation. We're not evaluating specific products, but pointing you to the type of material that is healthier. And the important thing about the work that we do behind these evaluations is we always evaluate data from product manufacturing and chemical production. We do not consider a product green if it's not as green as it can be throughout the product life cycle, taking into account the environmental health and justice implications along the supply chain. And I'll close by just giving you an illustration here of how this aligns with carbon and why by reducing virgin materials like plastic usage, we can have less toxic, less carbon emissions, and greater equity. On the left, you see the hazard spectrum that we've done for insulation. And at the top, you see things like cork and fiberglass, which have the least toxic environmental impacts. And on the bottom, you get to the plastics, the polystyrene, and the spray foam insulation. On the right, this is a chart that was developed by Chris Magwood, and I believe it's published by Architecture 2030, in which they look at the carbon impacts of various insulation products and rate it from carbon emitting to carbon absorbing. And you see the alignment here. The least toxic are also the carbon absorbing most preferred from both spectrums. And the carbon emitting and most toxics are also very well aligned. So this is just one illustration. And if you think about it, it really makes sense. If you use less petrochemicals inputs, you are going to both reduce toxicity and reduce carbon. And that's the lesson message I'd like to leave with you today. And I thank you for giving me this opportunity to kick off the discussion. Thank you very much.